developed to its fullest extent was the questions that were being asked by Mr. Buchanan with regard to how difficult it is to hire someone who is being paid not to work. And is there anybody on the panel that's actually hired somebody that was drawing unemployment and known that they've gone off of unemployment to go to work? Have you experienced that in the last year or two or three? Anyone?
Very rare.
But has it actually happened to any of you?
It has not happened to me.
No, we've hired a number, and they all went off unemployment. They were very. I had one employee walk in with his first paycheck, crying, saying, "You have no idea what this does for me." So I have not had the experience of them, trying to do otherwise at all.
Okay. So I hear you clearly that people that were drawing unemployment it hadn't expired yet, but you hired them
Yes.
and they took
Yes.
the job rather than the unemployment check.
Yes,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Anyone else have that experience? No, sir. So I think Mr. Buchanan has illustrated this in a way that we need to think about. As he said, some need it and some don't. Some game the system and some don't.
Yeah.
And it's hard to have a universal approach to this. I just think I've had people in the wintertime in my construction office open the door, stick their head in and say, "You don't need any help, do you?" They'd close the door and walk away.
Right.
And I realized that they're going to put me down as somebody they applied for a job with. And so now I say, yes, here's the application. Come on in, sit down. And they don't come back if they're not looking for work. But that's an interesting observation. And I noticed that Mr. Norman has an employee base that goes up to roughly 200 additional, that you're concerned about how that might be affected by the healthcare program. But I'd ask you, is there anybody on the panel that uses E-Verify to verify legal employees?
Mm-hmm.
Two of you do, Mr. Gay?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Norman?
Mm-hmm.
You find it a system that works well for you, Mr. Gay?
I think the system works well. The thing that's difficult with E-Verify is you have to hire the employee first before you do E-Verify. So if they kick out, now you've essentially hired that person, and they go back into the unemployment ranks. And I know there's some discrimination issues around that, but
Would you, I mean, I'm going to put it in a little bit of a way. I've characterized it this way, that you have to hire someone who's working illegally. You have to break the law in order to find out if they're breaking the law. And then if you find out that they aren't legal, then you have to let them go.
yes, I think that's a fair statement. And being a federal contractor, that's something that we have to take very seriously.
As a federal contractor, do you ever see a contract that requires you to certify a drug-free workplace?
Yes.
How do you comply with that in your state? Can you do that within your state laws?
Yes, we do. We do drug pre-screening before everybody is hired, and then random drug tests over the lifetime of their employment.
That's good business. Thank you. Mr. Norman?
We do the same. Our people go through drug tests, drug screening. A lot of times, too, when you get into the volume staffing, it's part of the deal that you have to show proof of citizenship. You have to show proof of no drug use and everything else. So it's just part of the process.
And you'd be happy if we amended E-Verify so that it can be with a bona fide job offer as opposed to having to actually put them on the payroll and then find out?
Right. And there's always, what we do too is we put an employment, basically an offer letter together that it makes it contingent upon passing the drug screening and all the citizenship stuff.
I hope that line's fine enough. Mr. Eifert, you were the one that actually spoke to me in a way when you talked about how you had to pinch pennies and squeeze things down and get rid of the clean rug service, and Ryan mows the lawn. If he was the son of one of your employees, could he do that for you?
No, sir.
And I bring that up because I think they'd have to be 18 years old to ride the riding lawnmower around to cut the grass around your place, but they'd have the keys to the car 2 years earlier. That seems like a child labor law that we ought to take a look at. But you also have 34 employees and 4 part-time, as I reading your testimony. And have you given thought to what you might do with an employee base if you're bumping up against the 50-person cap that would put a mandated health insurance on you? Has that crossed your mind that 50 employee threshold might be something you'd want to back away from if you reach that point?
I expected that we had become multiple entities. Instead of just 2 locations, we'll be 2 companies.
And I expect that's the case with all the witnesses. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to find the answer to that question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to
I think, close out this first panel by just getting some clarification on the issue that's come up